Chapter 12, 22. Current Generation Fairy. Zhao Lian. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. Rank 9 Love Goo. Zhao Lian did not recognize this goo worm, but that did not stop her from noticing this goo worm's uniqueness. Because in her vision this goo worm had become the center of the world, its body was glowing with multicolored lights. The entire goo worm seemed to be the hottest flame burning in the universe. All of reality would be overturned. Everything in this world would revolve around it. Is this a miracle? Zhao Lian's face was covered in tears. A final thought was produced in her mind. Next, she fell onto the ground, falling unconscious. Spirit Affinity House was in a commotion. Love Goo. It was the signature immortal goo of Spirit Affinity House. It flew out of its resting place to Zhao Lian's side. Most importantly, when Zhao Lian was unconscious, it did not fly away. It remained on her shoulder. That night, Spirit Affinity House recalled all of the goo immortals in the sect, holding an emergency meeting to discuss this matter. Spirit Affinity House's first Supreme Elder, second Supreme Elder, and third Supreme Elder, Feng Zhuge, Fairy Bai Qing, Shu Hao, Li Junying, and the others had gathered. The auras of immortals mixed together. The highest number of goo immortals from Spirit Affinity House had gathered together for the first time in hundreds of years. Everyone, we know about the rules of the sect. Now that Love Goo has acknowledged Zhao Lian, she is the sect's current generation fairy. Shu Hao spoke expressionlessly, but intense joy could be felt from his tone. Back then, he had advised Zhao Lian he was just trying to target Feng Jinhuang and damage her reputation, to elevate Zhao Lian's own prestige. He did not think that Zhao Lian would be so stubborn, continuing to kneel there without giving up. Shu Hao was helpless about this. He nurtured Zhao Lian and used her as a chess piece to deal with Feng Jinhuang. His real goal was to attack Feng Jinhuang's father, Feng Zhuge. A place with people interacting would have internal and external conflicts. When an organization is big, there would be many factions in it. Right now, the Feng faction with Feng Zhuge at the lead had the greatest authority in Spirit Affinity House. Shu Hao, Li Junying, and the others were suppressed by the Feng faction, unable to lift their heads. Thankfully, Spirit Affinity House's two rank 8 goo immortals, first Supreme Elder and second Supreme Elder, were impartial. They did not side with anyone, only looking at the benefits of Spirit Affinity House. This allowed Shu Hao and Li Junying to remain as part of the sect's core authority, despite the Feng faction's power. Zhao Lian knelt and begged Feng Jinhuang. Most people could only see the surface of the matter. Only a few understood that this was a political conflict in Spirit Affinity House. Zhao Lian was a mere mortal, but after inheriting the Thieving Heaven's true inheritance, she was qualified to compete with Feng Jinhuang for the position of Spirit Affinity House's fairy. Shu Hao made Zhao Lian his political tool. Originally, Shu Hao was thinking that he could not let Zhao Lian kneel anymore. In his opinion, as a political performance, it was already enough. If Zhao Lian continued kneeling, she would be like an idiot. There were no gains for her. But several hours ago, when Shu Hao heard that Love Goo had stayed by Zhao Lian's side of its own accord, he was stunned. After his heavy shock, he felt intense joy. He acutely sensed that this was a God-sent opportunity. This gift was too precious. He almost fainted from happiness. This was an unbelievably rare chance. He needed to use this opportunity to make Zhao Lian Spirit Affinity House's fairy. Then on this basis, he would retaliate against the Feng faction. This was an unprecedented opportunity for Shu Hao and the sect. As long as he made use of this chance, his future in the sect would change drastically for the better. Shu Hao did not doubt this. Thus, he was the first to stand up and support Zhao Lian for the position to become Spirit Affinity House's current generation. Fairy, he spoke. Our sect rules are clear in choosing the fairies. First, we listen to the masses. Then we look at aptitude. Finally, we look at the preference of higher-ups. The meaning was, they would first see what the people in the sect thinks, before looking at the aptitude and talent of the participant. And finally, it would depend on who suited the preferences of the higher-up goo immortals more. Shu Hao continued to speak. Right now, in terms of the masses, Zhao Lianyun might be an otherworldly demon, but she has love and loyalty. In order to save her lover, she knelt down to her opponent. The entire sect knows about her character. And in terms of aptitude, it is not important. As long as we are willing, we can raise a mortal's aptitude easily. I believe that everyone has heard of her experiences in Northern Plains. She is an elite in terms of talent. And finally, everyone's preferences. I greatly acknowledge Zhao Lianyun. I express my support towards her in becoming our fairy. I concur. Shu Hao had just said that when Li Junying added this. She was Shu Hao's wife. They had the same opinion in this. This was not strange. But the following scene was shocking to others. I agree with Shu Hao. I approve of Shu Hao's perspective. Even Love Gu acknowledged Zhao Lianyun. What else do I have to say? At once, 5 to 6 Gu immortals agreed with Shu Hao's words. Fairy Bai Qing could not stand it anymore. She felt, it seemed that everyone here agreed with Shu Hao. They felt that the position of Spirit Affinity House's fairy should go to Zhao Lianyun. Fairy Bai Qing was a Gu immortal of Spirit Affinity House. But more than that, she was Feng Jinhuang's mother. The position of fairy in Spirit Affinity House was very special. She was the cultivation seed that was chosen by the entire Spirit Affinity House. Even the mortals were part of the selection process. Next, they would invest heavily in her and nurture her to become immortal. Every generation's fairy would be Spirit Affinity House's representative when they fully matured. Spirit Affinity House was an organization, and organizations not only needed old experts, but also new Gu immortals to inject fresh blood and keep the system going smoothly. Fairy Bai Qing herself was a fairy of Spirit Affinity House. She had felt for herself the experience of having an entire sect support her cultivation. Even though Feng Zhuge and Bai Qing were both Gu immortals and could totally fund their daughter, Feng Jinhuang, for her immortal ascension easily, this type of support paled in comparison to the funding of the entire sect. Fairy Bai Qing did not want to see her daughter lose, but she understood deeply. Right now, the situation was very disadvantageous for her. Because the sect rules were in choosing a fairy, other than listening to the masses, looking at aptitude and the higher-ups' preference, there was also an important part that was, once Liu Gu acknowledged someone, no matter how disliked they were, or how bad their aptitude was, or even how badly received they were by the Gu immortal higher-ups, they would become the current generation fairy, regardless of the situation or whether they were male or female. Because of this rule, after Shu Hao finished speaking, he gained the approval of many Gu immortals. They expressed their support. In fact, Shu Hao's own political force was not strong. Normally, he would not garner such support. Even though the sect rules are as such, it is not a hopeless situation. Because in our sect's history, there was a fairy that was promoted because of this rule, and in the end, Fairy Bai Qing, thought of this and was about to speak. But at this time, Feng Zhuge pressed down on her hand softly. Don't be anxious. I know. You want to mention Mo Yao, right? Back then, she was just an ink man slave, but she gained the acknowledgement of Love Gu and was funded by the entire sect to become a Gu immortal, and even managed to reform Bo Qing. But in the end, she betrayed the sect. She defied Heavenly Court. Feng Zhuge transmitted. Fairy Bai Qing nodded, replying to him secretly. That's right. This Huang Er's only hope. As long as we use this point and continue arguing, using the strength of Feng faction, we might be able to get the sect to change this rule. After all, rules are made by people. Isn't that right? This sect rule does not make sense. But Feng Zhuge shook his head. He rejected Fairy Bai Qing's idea. Shu Hao is a wisdom path Gu immortal. Why did he not mention the sect rules in his earlier speech? He only talked about the first 3 conditions, and seemingly forgot about this sect rule that was most advantageous for him. Fairy Bai Qing was slightly stunned. Feng Zhuge continued. This is his scheme, his trap. If you talk about it, you will fall into his plot. Even though Bo Qing and Mo Yao had caused such a situation, the sect rules did not change. After the Battle of Yitian Mountain, our sect suffered a lot of pressure, but our rules had not changed either. This is a very deep issue. There is more than meets the eye. If you want to use Feng faction's power to challenge it foolishly, Wanting to change this rule, we will lose miserably. We would suffer heavy losses, while Shu Hao would be completely intact. That is what he wants to see. Fairy Bai Qing's body was covered in cold sweat. I was rash. She quickly calmed down. After a while, she thought about why she made such a mistake. Because it involved Huang Er, I became confused due to love. No, there is another reason. I became a rank 7 Gu immortal and gained rank 7 immortal Gu. Compared to before, I was overconfident. Because I am in the righteous path, battle strength is not everything. If hubby did not remind me today, I would have committed a huge mistake. Thinking of this, Fairy Bai Qing unconsciously looked at Feng Zhuge. She felt a strong feeling of protection from him. Even though Feng Zhuge was from the demonic path, after all these years he had demonstrated his skills. Being in the sect did not require just battle strength. His political abilities were also far superior to her. Otherwise, how could his Feng faction have such brilliance today? Since you can expose Shu Hao's trap, I will entrust this matter to you. Fairy Bai Qing transmitted secretly. There was sweet affection in her tone. Feng Zhuge smiled bitterly. This matter, I am not going to interfere. Because interfering is of no use. What do you mean? Fairy Bai Qing was stunned. Feng Zhuge did not speak. He looked at the sky. He did not fall for it. Shu Hao was originally waiting for someone to jump out, but nobody objected to his words. Even Feng Zhuge was keeping silent. He felt that it was a pity. But he quickly collected his thoughts, feeling confident inside. Forget it. Since nobody objected, this matter is decided. But First Supreme Elder suddenly said, I have understood everyone's stances, but Zhao Lian has a special background. She is an otherworldly demon. I will report the result of our discussion to the higher-ups. They will decide themselves. What? Shu Hao was completely stunned.